great French writer Victor Hugo once said, "There is a force greater than the force of armies. It is the force of an idea that has come into its time." San Francisco, April the 25th, 1945. An idea had come into its time, and it brought to San Francisco important people, some important for themselves, but all important because of the reason for their coming. In their briefcases, they carried the hopes of the world's people. They brought with them the dreams of philosophers, memories of wars, memories of the Congress of Vienna, which in 1815 began the age of consultation, the age of diplomacy by reference. They brought with them memories of the Covenant of the League of Nations, the casualty lists of the great war they had fought, and the greater war they were still fighting. The war that brought leaders together for successive conferences. First, somewhere at sea in August 1941, in Moscow and Tehran some 2 years later, at Dumbarton Oaks and other places, and finally in San Francisco on April the 25th, 1945. To call the world to order, to make a fresh start, to build a new world, to set forth the document which had come into its time, the Charter of the United Nations. Prompted by bitter experience, they wrote this preamble.
We, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has brought untold sorrow to mankind, and to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women and of nations, large and small, and to establish conditions under which justice and respect for the obligations arising from treaties and other sources of international law can be maintained, and to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom, and for these ends to practice tolerance and live together in peace with one another as good neighbors, and to unite our strength to maintain international peace and security, and to ensure by the acceptance of principles and the institution of methods that armed force shall not be used save in the common interest, and to employ international machinery for the promotion of the economic and social advancement of all peoples, have resolved to combine our efforts to accomplish these aims. Accordingly, our respective governments, through representatives assembled in the city of San Francisco, who have exhibited their full powers found to be in good and due form, have agreed to the present Charter of the United Nations, and do hereby establish an international organization to be known as the United Nations.
With 51 signatures to the Charter, 51 nations became the founding members of the New World Organization. Nearly as many more, accepting the obligations of membership, have joined it since. In the Charter, these obligations are set forth. The purposes and principles of the organization are defined, along with the methods and machinery to make the idea work. If you draw a diagram, this is what it looks like. In the center, the General Assembly. Around it, the other principal organs, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, the Trusteeship Council, the International Court of Justice, the Secretariat. This is the General Assembly, the only main organ on which every member state is represented, and in which virtually all the world's great political, economic, and social questions are discussed. Each member has one vote, and when the members cast their votes at the regular annual meetings, or at special sessions, the decisions and recommendations they make reflect and influence the realities of our age. They also reaffirm, in the words of the Charter, the equal rights of nations, large and small. The Security Council. Here sit 11 member states. 5 of them are permanent members: the Republic of China, France, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States. The other 6 are elected by the General Assembly for a term of 2 years. The chief job of the Security Council is to maintain peace and security. International political disputes of all kinds are brought before it. Sometimes, as a result of its the movement along disputed borders or on territories in turmoil. Indonesia, the Middle East, Kashmir, the Congo are some examples. But action like this can only be taken when at least 7 members of the Council vote yes, and the permanent members raise no objection. If one of them votes no, it is a veto, and the resolution is defeated. The Economic and Social Council. Here sit 18 member states elected by the General Assembly. It is their responsibility to promote, through studies and recommended actions, all the conditions that are the very foundations of peace and prosperity: good health, adequate food, education, trade. The Council coordinates the work of all the agencies of the United Nations which specialize in these fields. It is a vast undertaking, providing technical assistance for land reclamation, arranging bank loans for irrigation projects, helping farmers grow better crops with better tools, conquering malaria with a war on mosquitoes, training technicians to use modern machines, showing young mothers how to care for their babies. The work goes on, the reports come in, and the Council, in turn, reports to the General Assembly. Before this Council are brought all the needs of man, and, not least among them, are his fundamental rights and freedoms. The Trusteeship Council plays an important role in the evolution towards nationhood of many of the world's people who do not govern themselves, who are not independent. It entrusts the actual administration of their affairs to a member state and checks from time to time on their problems and progress by sending out United Nations missions. Guided by the Council, new states have already joined the community of nations. More have still to do so, and the Trusteeship Council continues to carry out the provisions of the Charter in helping the still dependent peoples achieve self-government and statehood. The International Court of Justice. An integral part of the United Nations Charter is the statute of the International Court of Justice, and the court is the supreme judicial organ of the World Organization. The court is always in session, and this is where it sits, at The Hague in the Netherlands. 15 judges from 15 different countries make up the court. They can give advisory opinions on matters of international law, and they can hear disputes between states, provided these states agree to abide by any decision the court may make. The Secretariat. To carry out the administrative responsibilities of the organization and to assist all the other organs, the Charter has established a Secretariat headed by a Secretary General. The Secretariat headquarters in New York forms the hub of a wide network of varied activities spread all over the world. It is the Secretariat's task to keep the machinery of the United Nations going by translating into actions the decisions taken by the organization. To coordinate the work in the field and at the headquarters, the Secretariat maintains a staff recruited from many countries. Their skills and professions are as varied as the demands made upon the organization. The Secretary General is elected by the General Assembly on the recommendation of the Security Council. He is the Chief Administrative Officer and has the authority to bring before the Security Council any matter which he believes may threaten the peace and security of the world. As the demands on the United Nations peacemaking machinery have increased, so has the Secretary General's role in the diplomatic sphere, working always within the terms of the United Nations Charter. In all these ways, the United Nations strives to fulfill the objectives of the Charter, to maintain international peace and security, to develop friendly relations among nations, to achieve international cooperation, and to be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations in the attainment of these common ends.